Hey guys, all right, this is it. This is the grand slammy. This is the big kebab, whole shooting match here for all the marbles. We're gonna put all the pieces together. I'm gonna show you my method. I think it's the most efficient way, time-wise, of doing voice tracking. You can, once you get good at this method, you'll be able to whip through it. There are so many advantages, not having to listen to things in real time over and over and over, not having to, if you make a mistake, you don't have to redo the whole break. There are so many advantages to this method, and I think it will save you a lot of time. Obviously, there's a learning curve. You got to get used to doing something, a little different, but it will save you time. And you can apply this method to doing shows, features, stories, whatever the heck you're doing. Very efficient, in my opinion. So I'm going to just show you how to do, I'm going to do the first 2 breaks of my automation shift for this afternoon. So I've got the log on my phone. I'll throw it up on the screen here too. I know that's terrible, sorry. So this is how this works. So you open up Audition. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new multi-track session, either by, I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, but you can also just File, New, Multi-track session. We'll just call this 1. Now, I have a template that I use that I can show you what that consists of, but let's just say we're just starting a new multi-track session from scratch. So this is how I set it up. Track 1, I keep for my voice. Track 2, I use for pre-recorded elements like spots, promos, blah, blah, blah. Track 3, I use for music beds. So these 2, I keep the same level, +0, +0. This, I will throw at -12. This is a personal preference. This is subjective. I just like to put it at -12 because I think that gets you in the ballpark. And then what we do is we want to get all the spots that we will need. So if you watched my previous video on pulling spots out of Audio Vault, you should have the spots that you'll need for today in your folder within the transfer folder. So what I'm going to do then is I'll just pull open transfer, export from Vault, Carl. Now we're in the last week of pledge drive here, so it's like all warp spots. I'm just gonna grab a couple of these. Now the tricky part with carts, you will have to actually open a cart within AVRPS to see what cuts are inside that cart. And then you have to go grab the actual cuts. This is something you gotta be a little careful of. So we're just gonna grab 2 warp spots. I just click and drag them into the files box, but you can do it a different way if you want. You can double click to import. You can hit probably Control-I on Windows. For Mac, it's Command-I. That will also import. Or you can go to File, Import that way. So again, it's Adobe, so there's like 6 different ways to skin the cat here. People aren't gonna like it when I say that. So anyways, we've got our files there. Then the other thing that I do is I just pull open this is Mac, so it's called a Finder window. In Windows, it would be your Explorer window, and I like to have one open to my music beds, which these are on my local drive. Otherwise, if you will remember from my other video, there's a folder full of AAA music beds right here in transfer. These are all pulled from the World Cafe music beds during the breaks. So these are all volume matched to the -23 standard that I showed you in a previous video. So these will all be consistent in loudness. I'm trying to, be methodical here. So I just keep this open. I don't drag them all in here unless you really want to get that crazy, but I just like to keep things neat and clean. In any case, I want to record my voice here, so I make sure this is set right. I make sure I throw the recording arm button on, and then what I do, what's wrong with this picture? Not wearing headphones. So I'm just doing that for the video, but you better be wearing headphones every time, punk. Anyway, so what you do then is, if you look at the log here, which I'll put up on the screen, but you're basically grabbing your spot. Oh, that's huge. I'm going to zoom out some. So this is a 30-second spot. This is a warp drive spot. So according to my log, that goes at the beginning of the break. So right here. And then what I want is I want to pull up that Finder window again with my music beds. So then you drag that in down to the music track, which is 12 decibels softer than the other 2 elements. which, like I said, this is subjective. If you have certain voices need a little quieter music. So in any case, you'll find the sweet spot for you. But for me, I like -12. Anyway, so you've dragged your music bed in here. This is a minute-long spot. So I'm grabbing the end of this music bed, pulling it back to a minute. And then I'll throw a little fade on the end of it. I'll switch to my time selection tool. And I'll go, okay, here's the end of that break. And then what I'm going to do is, all I have to do is just start from there. I don't have to listen to the whole. I mean, you may think like, oh, that's petty. I mean, I just listen to the whole thing. But when you're talking about scalability and if you're doing hours of automation, this will save you a lot of time. So you just start from here, and let me pull up the log. Or pledge online at 815. That's not right. So I screwed up already. I was going to say, or pledge online at 815-753-8800. So I screwed up. Oh, well, instead of having to redo the whole break, I just stop. I select that one piece. I delete it. I go back. Or you can even just go, if you're right here, you just hit Control-Z to undo and then try again. Or pledge right now by calling 815-753-8800. We need to raise $125,000 by Saturday, and we need your help to do it. So again, please call 815-753-8800 or pledge online at WNIJ.org. You're listening to The Takeaway on WNIJ. Fresh Air is on the way as well at 2 o'clock. Support for The Takeaway on WNIJ comes from the Inn at Molly's, spacious modern suites in a restored 1865 building in downtown Mount Carroll. Reservations at mollysmountcarroll.com. This is WNIJ. Ooh, so close at the end there. Let's see. I didn't quite hit that post. Well, yeah. But if I clip it at 1 minute, it's going to be... So, thankfully, I'm doing it in this mode. I don't have to redo the whole break just because I didn't quite hit that post. If there's enough room, I can go back and listen. Yeah, there's enough room. I can just... if I'm on the time selection tool, I'm just right-clicking and dragging it just a little bit. It's close. It's close. Another thing I can do is just, if I'm in multi-track mode, I can go to my, double-click on that clip. Then you're isolating that clip. You go in. I can just trim just the tiniest little bit out of my, just a little bit, so it doesn't sound horribly unnatural or anything. Just a scotch. Just a little out of the middle of my breaths. That's what sounds the most natural. If you're going to trim breaths at all, take the very middle of the breath. So anyway, that gets me, boom, look at that. I've even got a little space to spare, so I'm not cramping on Eric at the beginning of that. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so now I'm done with this break here. Oh, no, I'm not. Because the easiest way to do metadata, if you're doing a lot of voice tracking, put the metadata into the multi-track and then just change the cut ID for each one that you do. So here, I'll show you what I mean. Title for this, I just call these CDN voice track. You should probably do the same if it's for voice tracking. Cut ID, this one is, according to log, WE1320. Client ID, we don't use that category. This is voice track, so it's going in the VTK folder. Start date, 1900-01.01, because I don't want it to actually, it doesn't need to have a start date. Kill date, I do like to put that in. So this is going to be 2017-04-20. Because we know about volume matching, what we actually do is we want to take that voice level and we want to match clip loudness to -23. Boom. That boosted it up. So now our voice is a consistent level. It's at that -23 level. And the this warp spot, this should be, because I produced it, I know it is anyway, but you can match this. In fact, what I do is I just actually, and also the music beds should be matched to that as well, because I did those too. But sometimes there will be a small tolerance. So again, whoops, and you just select all these clips, right-click, Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Match clip loudness. -23. Okay. Now see, in this one, because we're only using half of that full file, it decided that this first half of it needed to be boosted up a little bit to be consistent with that standard. So in any case, so this is all volume matched. It's ready to go. It's ready to mix down. We want to select all these clips, so we can do that a few different ways. You either Control-A, or you grab your Move tool, or just hit V to select that Move tool. You drag and get all those clips, and then you want to go Multi-Track, Mix Down Session to New File, Selected Clips. Now, some of you may be going, why don't you just mix down the entire session? Because I have been burned by this. Burned. We won't go into the gory details, but you don't want to do that. You want to select the clips. Multi-Track, Mix Down Session to New File, Selected Clips. I set up some handy keyboard shortcuts for myself because I'm doing this so often that I can just fly through it. Like, just bleh. So anyway, I'll show you. It may do it here, so you can see why you do not. So if you don't do that and you just try to go Multi-Track, Mix Down Session to New File, and you go Entire Session. Oh, okay, all right. They may have fixed that, but at one point it would mix down a file that had those 3 clips and everything to the end of the session, which would be a lot of silence. So yeah, don't do that. Just to be safe. That's the best way of being safe about that, is you select all the clips, you go to Multi-Track, Mix Down Session to New File, Selected Clips. Boom, look at that. Look, oh, look, that's so nice and even. Dang. Dang. Okay, so then at that point, this oh, geez, look at that. 1 extra 0 in there. That wouldn't be good. Audio Vault wouldn't find that. So in any case, that's ready to go. You double check your metadata. You double check, make sure everything got included and there's no gaps or silence. And then you are ready to save the file, which, you know, I do it with keyboard shortcuts, but you just save as, and then, you know, if it's voice tracking, I just title it the same thing as the actual cut ID. And then I'm just going to save it to, my desktop for now. So that's that. Then when we go to the next voice track spot that we're going to do, we can either hit 1 on the keyboard, or on the number keys, or to switch back and forth between single and multi. Or you can just go up to here to Multi-Track again, or you can double-click on the session here, and it'll take you back to here. So then what we do to do the next break is we select all, or hit Control-A, delete all those, change the metadata to the next break, 2900, and then we would go on, do the same thing. The break starts with a warp spot, and then, you know, we grab the, music bed, and set that up the same way. Oops, I keep acting like this is. Zoom out a little bit. Pull it down to a minute. Fade in. Boom. Or pledge now at 815-753-8800. Anyway, so same thing. Select all. Match clip loudness. You can see I'm using keyboard shortcuts here. Mix down. Boom. Again, check your metadata. So you can see how once you get good at this method, you can just breeze through this stuff, especially if you set up some keyboard shortcuts. If you want to, I can show you what I use, but we'll just keep it at this for now. So that is a super efficient way of doing voice tracking. Yeah!